Howdy, folks. Pete Farron here, and you're listening to the Shrugging Out podcast, the podcast where Atlas Shrugged meets modern survivalism. And you're also, if you're on YouTube, you're watching the podcast today, and I am experimenting with a new approach to recording this podcast. I'm recording the audio for the full show, and I'm recording the video for the first segment of the show. And as I don't know if you know much about YouTube, if you you probably know more about it than I do, frankly. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you may already know that YouTube limits just any old person to a 10-minute duration in their video. And if you do, however, gather subscribers, they will increase your limit. I think it goes in stages. They'll bump you up to 20 minutes and then maybe even up to 30 minutes per video. Something like that, somewhere thereabouts. So anyway, my experiment is that I will video the first few minutes of the show, the first segment, first 10 minutes, as much as YouTube will let me, and then the rest of the show will continue on audio. I will post both, and we'll see what happens. There are a lot of people. I'm surprised at how many people have been listening so soon after getting started. A brother of mine, I'm the oldest in our family, the second oldest, has been encouraging me to do this and has helped market the podcast to a number of folks, and I've really appreciated that. And still do, of course. And we're looking at other ways to gather more viewers and listeners. I think the YouTube video idea may pay off. We'll see. So anyway, with the camera, you get to, I guess, look at my face, maybe see someone who's driving next to me, maybe get a load of a trucker who's giving me the finger. Who knows? But a lot of people like to have something to look at, and this is going to be it. So on this first show, I'll be experimenting with things like camera angles and lighting and such. I'm going to leave the camera where it is for this show, and then maybe for some other tests I will try it in other places. I am using, by the way, a Kodak ZI-6, which is a wonderful little camera. It is a little bit bigger than a deck of cards. Or maybe an iPhone, about the same size and shape, maybe a little thicker, iPhone being so slim. And it is hanging upside down from a Panavice suction cup camera mount. This Kodak camera is quite light. It's probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 ounces. And the camera mount is theoretically able to hold 3 pounds. So even if I drive over some really rough terrain, it's unlikely to be dislodged. I'm not going to say where I'm driving. I don't think I want to reveal that. Perhaps there's an enterprising traffic officer who has the opinion that this is not a legal thing, that I'm not paying attention to my driving. If you're watching me, you can see that I am. I'm not looking at the camera. I'm not using my hands for any of the recording operations. I turn it on when I'm parked, start driving, start talking, and it is a completely non-interfering activity. I don't think this is any worse or better than talking on a cell phone, really even maybe listening to the radio, because it's one way. I'm not carrying on a conversation. I'm not being distracted by anything like that, by what someone else is saying to me or asking me. So I think this is a pretty safe activity. When I think about what it is you're doing while driving, it's hand-eye coordination. It's a visual activity primarily. And of course, recording audio is a completely different channel in the brain. The human brain is and as you can see, I'm stopped, so I don't mind looking at the camera now. But the human brain is a marvelously parallel processing unit. There's almost nothing like it, although I think someday there will be. There will certainly be computers that are able to that will have self-awareness and will be sentient in any measurable sense. We don't have that yet, but I think that's coming. That's another, by the way, sorry for the tangent, but if you've listened to other podcasts, ones where I've talked about generational dynamics, this is the body of work that John Xenakis has put together around how the generations of humans drives the evolution or the cycles of human history in any civilization or nation. He also has a pretty interesting take on what's called the singularity and the technological singularity, and that's something that hasn't originated with him but has been talked about by a number of people for many years. The term applies to that moment in time when humanity produces a sentient computing device that is capable of designing the next and subsequent generations of similar devices or robots or computers. And the reason that's called the singularity is the theory is that once that happens, once computers that are sentient can design better computers using the speed and efficiency and accumulated data available to such a computer, that the rate of growth or rate of improvement in computing power and the ability of computers to of sentient computers to develop and improve their own breed will be unmatched. It will be like no evolution that we have seen with organic chemistry, with organic beings. The silicon evolution will be miraculous in speed and quite possibly terrifying. If you remember Isaac Asimov, the brilliant science fiction writer, he wrote a series of novels about robotics. The first one being I, Robot, and then there were a number of others, a whole series of them. I think they were called Foundation series, and he had the 3 laws of robotics. I'm going to do this from memory, but and the order of the laws is important. But I think the first law of robotics, and these are things that you imprint within the mind of the computer. He postulated a positronic brain inside of a robot. The first one is that a robot must obey the commands of a human. That's first of all. The second thing is that the robot must never harm a human or allow a human being to come to harm. I think this is actually the first one. A robot must never harm a human being or through an action allow a human being to come to harm ever, under any circumstances. Number 2, a robot must obey any command given by a human that is consistent with the first law. In other words, a human being couldn't tell a robot, go kill that other human being. That's against the first law, even though it's in compliance with the second law. And then the third law of robotics, according to Isaac Asimov, is a robot must not allow itself to come to harm unless that is in conflict with the other 2 laws. So in other words, it has a self-preservation instinct or program. Now, some people have probably found flaws in that, but it was when I was a young child, I was reading that science fiction from Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, and others, and I found that to be a pretty fascinating series of things. And those 3 laws and the concept of intelligent robots that were pretty much indistinguishable from people, except for the fact that they all